Another thing that the article said was, in Oxford, they're not saying you can't leave your 15-minute city. They're just trying to discourage you from using your car as much. Well, that's the stepping stone. And where it's going, where it's planned to go, you can see it in the documents of the World Economic Forum, this global cooperation. They want to stop people leaving those zones without permission. It's where they want to go. So how do you justify that? How do you justify this, well, fascist dystopia? Nothing less. Well, you've got to have a problem to which people think you need a solution, and you then provide the solution, which is what I'm talking about. And so you invent human-caused climate change. You don't invent climate change. The climate's always been changing, and it's vastly different over a long period of time for what it is now. What you do is you invent human-caused climate change. Why? Because you want humans to be the enemy, the perceived enemy of humans. And don't take my word for that. In 1968, an organization was set up, headed by an Italian industrialist called Iruleo Pecci, called the Club of Rome. And this Club of Rome is in the same network as the Bilderberg Group, the Council on Foreign Relations in America, the Trilateral Commission, the United Nations at its inner core. And its job, the Club of Rome, the very reason for its creation was to exploit environmental concerns, some of which were real, many of which were invented, to justify the centralization of global power. And out of that came what's called the environmental movement in the form that we see today, because it wasn't always like that. And I sit here and speaking as a former national spokesman for the British Green Party. It never lasted that long. It was in the 1980s. I didn't last long in that job because I saw pretty bloody quickly that the Green Party, for all its claims to be different, was actually just another political party with a different rosette on the door. And they operated in the same way, and they manipulated in the same way, and I was out of there. It's not for me. And I realized politics is absolutely not the answer. But anyway, in those days, there was a much less emphasis on human-caused global warming. It was all on pollution and stuff like that, which I had great sympathy for. And then in 1992 came something called the Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, the Earth Summit, they called it. And the Earth Summit was fronted up by a Canadian oil millionaire who was fronting up for those that owned him, who were the Rockefeller family and the bloody Rothschilds. Why would the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds be suddenly concerned about the sodden environment? A lot of what they've done in their companies and industrial kind of gigantic operations have caused enormous damage to the environment. Why are they suddenly seeing the light? Well, they hadn't, of course. Because if you want to transform global society under problem-reaction solution, you need a global problem to which you can offer a global solution. So out of that came this whole global warming thing. And it got more and more and more influential until today's Green Party is completely and utterly mesmerized by it. And so is the Labour Party, and so are the Liberal Democrats. Much of the Conservative Party at its core is mesmerized by it, but there are pushbackers there that can see through it. And so you start predicting because you want to build up the fear, that this global warming, it's global warming. If it's cold, it's global warming. And if it's hot, it's definitely global warming if it's hot. And if it's somewhere in between, well, that's global warming and all that stuff. And everything's fricking global warming. For instance, you now, they've got named storms in this country now. We used to have storms coming off the Atlantic. Now we have storms with names. And a lot of them have scary names.
There was a Hurricane Ike once.
Was there a Hurricane Ike?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
There was. There was, yeah.
You've been messing with that weather technology, haven't you?
This is true, yeah.
But I did have to laugh. They called one of them Hurricane Betty. Now, I can't get terrified about Hurricane Betty.